full of shit.
Straight up just lying to your face.
And I said exactly like that. And it was never the same. And from that moment, I knew that I was done there.
My name is Sir Yacht, and I'm on a mission to interview every Cleveland Browns starting quarterback since 1999. We know their names, and we've seen them struggle. But do we know their side of the story? This is Since 99.
Tied by the Browns! The Cleveland Browns have won the game!
For our next interview, we go to the desert to talk to the only Pro Bowl Browns quarterback since 1999. We're here in Scottsdale, Arizona, where you live, and there's a lot of golf that happens here. Is it true that when you were in the NFL, you were considered the best golfer? The best golfer out of people that played in the NFL?
There were some times, but I don't think I ever actually was. Lots of effort went into it, but I realized while I was playing that that's probably not the best time to try to be as good as you can at golf.
No, probably not. What was life kind of like growing up? Was football always a part of the picture?
No, not really. I was a high-level basketball player really kind of early on. I started playing 4th grade, I think, was like my first year of like real basketball. And then I came home like going into my freshman year, and they called me like the night before practice starts, and they're like, "Are you coming to practice?" And I was like, "Nah, I don't know." Like, because every year I just had kind of went to go play with my buds, and I'm like, yeah, I think I'll be there. And then I showed up, and they threw me the ball, and they're like, "You're playing quarterback." And I'm like, huh? It was a journey.
You just walked into being a good quarterback.
I could always throw a football, like, very good. And my high school coach, I was a ball boy, I believe. I was, like, in 5th or 6th grade, and I was a ball boy in the varsity games. And I was taking the balls for the other team. I would get them, and I would just throw them back across the field instead of run them. I would just launch them to the other kid. And apparently he's like, that kid's going to play quarterback someday. Never told me that.
So what were those conversations like for you leading up into the NFL draft?
Kind of a funny story. So I did played the Shrine game in San Francisco, which was an awesome deal. Did the combine. Kind of didn't really have any like teams that like stood out, like came to me and were like, "We want you." Wasn't really, my agent kind of heard, like 3rd, 4th round. I had a terrible junior year, which kind of set me back, which I was well aware of. 3rd, 4th round, so I had a little party, and we all hung out and played golf in the morning, knowing I wasn't getting picked. This is when it was just the 2 days or whatever. So sat around all day Saturday with my family. Phone rings like the middle of the 4th round, and it was the Carolina Panthers, and I'm like, okay, like this here is coming. Like this was just somebody asking to make sure where it was, and then now their pick comes, and they just called me like 10 minutes before that. I'm like, okay. And then they drafted Stephon LaFleurs, and I was like, all right.
Did they call you saying that they were going to pick you, or?
Yeah, essentially, like the guy was like, hey, we're picking in 2 picks. We just want to make sure that this is the right information, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
So they didn't even know. It's what it sounded like.
Yeah, it was kind of a little bit of a weird thing, but 6th round came around, and then finally got picked, and I don't know, it worked out. Baltimore was a cool spot for a short little minute.
Yeah, you were there for a couple weeks until they released you in the season. What was that like? What were those expectations there that they laid out?
I kind of started to figure things out, things that I wasn't aware of going through college, and I'm like, this is getting kind of fun. And we get into the 4th preseason game, and they're like, you're going to play the whole game. I'm like, what? Like, I barely played. You guys played me like 5 snaps the first couple. But I had been having a good camp, so like I kind of figured out what they were trying to do. They didn't really want me to play. They were trying to put me on the practice squad. And so I go in, I play the last preseason game, and I threw 3 touchdowns or something. I threw a game-tying touchdown to Randy Himes. We go the next week, and Kyle Buller hyperextends his big toe versus the Colts. And now I'm the backup to Anthony Wright. And I don't believe that they were very comfortable with that. Like, we were supposed to be a good team, a lot of veterans. And then they bring Cordell Stewart in week 4, maybe? Like 4 or 5, something like that. It was during the bye, I remember. And I'm like, I'm better than this guy. I can throw it better than him. He's 35 years old at the time or whatever it was. Anyways, they released me, and then I was on the plane to Cleveland 24 hours later.
They just called you right then? They're like, we want you right now?
So they released me. I went in the parking lot, called my agent. I'm like, what is going on now? And he was like, well, they're going to try to get you on the practice squad. He was like, there's no chance you're making it to the practice squad. He's like, pack your place. So I packed up my whole place, which I had purchased.
Oh, my
little
God.
condo, and I had some other guys living with me, and we were essentially I was gonna rent it out and try to just break even on the deal. And so I back out of that. It was like the day that I was supposed to close, so I lose 10 grand in escrow that day, which I didn't have 10 grand. And I packed my house. My mom flew to Baltimore, got my car, which everything was in, and she drove it to Cleveland.
I don't think you saw any action in 2005. I think you saw your first action week 13 against the Chiefs in 2006. I think Charlie Frye injured his wrist. You come in and throw 2 touchdowns and lead the Browns to a 28-14 win.
I wasn't like nervous because it just happened so fast. Like all of a sudden, like I'm in the game, we're down 2 scores, or maybe we might have been 21-7 maybe, I think, when I went in or something. And Charlie was trying to throw and his wrist was hurting and he was out. And then I'm like, am I going to be in for the rest of the game? Am I in for, whatever? And anyways, we started kind of moving the ball a little bit, and Coach Shearer comes over and he's like, hey, you're in the rest of the game. Go play.
Obviously, what happened the next season is you had a great Pro Bowl season. But before we go into that, what was your time like? I mean, what was your thoughts about like being in Cleveland, like being around the fans and things like that? What was your experience there like?
It was perfect for me because I came from a town of 3,500 people. Cleveland is not too big of a city.
No.
At least, from appearance, when you get there, Cleveland's huge. You get there and it's not. Like, you kind of get to know people and your little pods, and it's not that big. So it was very comfortable. I don't know that I would have done as well right off the bat in a bigger city. I might have freaked out a little bit, but no, it was good. Everything was fine, and we were, obviously, living there. When things are good, that place is humming, and it's awesome. But as things kind of turned and my frustrations mounted over time, like I kind of got irritated with going to dinner with my family and having people running their mouth to me, and like
that's BS.
And that was where, as we all know, like when I left, like that's where my frustration was. And I met so many great people there, and I still have great friends there, and people that I talk to all the time, and relationships that you can never, they're never going to go away.
Yeah.
But it was very unfortunate the way that it kind of ended. And I personally didn't handle it properly. Knowing now, obviously, could have handled it a lot better and would have. And I think since made amends with people that I offended, some of the people that I offended.
Well, we talked to Tim Couch, and Tim might be the most even keel person I think I've ever met, and he even was like, "Oh, I don't think I handled it the right way." But it's like, how could you not have like? There's so much emotion that goes into football, and what we've learned as fans is that you almost plug any quarterback into that thing. If you don't have it from organization, from top down, like it just isn't going to work. From like a diagnostic perspective, like what do you think is like the reason why it just hasn't worked? Like it isn't working right now.
When I was there, from my experience, like there was so many lies. There was so many, I did this, somebody claiming that they made the decision and it was actually somebody else. And nobody wanted to like stand up and say that was my decision. I got benched in 2008 after the Ravens game. I threw a hit Braylon, and he's like wide open, gonna walk in we're gonna go up 28-3 or whatever versus the Ravens. Drops it. I end up throwing a pick to Suggs the next play on a screen to Jason Wright. Ravel's out of control. We lose the game. And I get benched the next week, and Phil Savage straight up told me like, "Oh, this is my decision. About this, that, and the other." And he was lying, and I flat out went into the indoor with him, and we had a exchange, and I just was like, "I'm done with this. Like, I can't do this. Like, I can't be one person telling me one thing, my coaches tell me one thing, you're telling me one thing, and I actually know the truth. So you're full of shit, and you're full of shit."
Straight up just lying to your face.
And I said exactly like that, and it was never the same. And from that moment, I knew that I was done there. Like,
that was in 2008, or was that 2009? Like
that was 2008 because.
So you still have one more year there.
I was there. I did. I made it.
And you knew you were done the year before.
I did.
Oh my God.
But then because we brought Mangini in, and then I was like, oh man, this is a disaster, and I knew I had that $10 million they owed me at the end of the next year. There's no chance I was getting it. It was very frustrating because the communication all around, right? Like, you're going into work and one guy tells you one thing, another guy tells you one thing, and I just feel like there was never one guy supporting me other than my coach. We even go back further. Going into the draft when they drafted Brady, they pulled me in before I was going home to go play golf with my buddies for that weekend, and they pulled me in before I leave. And like, hey, listen, you've done a great job. We're really looking forward to seeing what happens going in this year. We're not drafting a quarterback. Da 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 da.
They said that to you?
Straight to my face.
They drafted a quarterback in the first round.
Correct. And I'm on the 7th hole at the golf course in Oregon, and my phone rings, and my coach was like, "I'm sorry, like, this wasn't in our plans. This, that, and the other." Well, one thing leads to another. The way I understand it, Randy Lerner walked in and said, "Draft Brady Quinn," and organizationally, that's never gonna work if you're hiring guys to do jobs and then you're always stepping over them to make decisions for them. Like, at the end of the day, we can all agree that hasn't worked long term and it probably will never work.
Well, it's tough for Phil and other people, I suppose. We're playing devil's advocate just because like the NFL is so cutthroat. Like, it's like the results need to happen now. If you don't, we're gonna find somebody to replace you, whether you're in the organization, whether you're playing. So that just sets up like a recipe for disaster, because you like, I have to keep my job. I have to be here. So we have to do this thing. And then I'm telling Derek that like, we're not drafting a quarterback or whatever. So that's just, oh my God, that's a complete shit show.
So just a mess.
I'm sure you picked this up, but Cleveland Browns media, Cleveland Browns fans, for whatever reason, I think it's because of Bernie Kosar, they love a guy that is from the state, as a homegrown guy, and they're like, oh, we want somebody like Bernie to like go lead the Browns. So they drafted Charlie Frye, who's from Willard, Ohio, played at Akron and comes here. Obviously, you're competing with him. And then apparently you didn't know, but how could you know if they're lying to you, that they drafted Brady Quinn, who's from Columbus, and played at Notre Dame, and he's all over national media. And they're like, oh, he's the guy. Like, we want the homegrown people. Did you feel like you're like, for me, I would be like, it just doesn't make any sense, because like thinking about it now, it's like, I just want the guy who's like going to lead us to victory. I don't care if he's from Ohio or from the other side of the country.
It was a bit hard, like, because I dealt with it pretty much the whole time I was there.
Do you hear? I mean, I'm sure you hear that noise. Like, it's impossible to tune it out.
I understood it. It had been like me growing up in Seattle and the Seahawks drafted me, like kind of the same idea. And I get where they were going with it or trying to do, is because to rally the fan base, like you have a local kid and like the energy of that, the potential energy of that, and them winning games, and how that, I get it. Like from a marketing standpoint for your team and to make the most money for your team, it makes sense. But ultimately, winning games makes more sense.
I like that more.
But
personally,
so it was hard, like, because I obviously had confidence in what I was doing and felt that I was the guy that should have been playing the whole time. And I wasn't obviously great at times, but there's, I think, something to it. Like, had there been full support, or I had felt full support from everybody moving forward, like maybe I'm better. Maybe I'm not always like looking them over my shoulder, like every incompletion, like, oh my God, like I'm 1 for 4 to start the game. Are you gonna bench me in the second series? Like, cause that's kind of how it felt every week, was like,
yeah,
if we didn't start 5 for 5, like I was gonna be on the bench by halftime. Like, I mean, that wasn't the reality of it, but like that's how it, I guess the energy that I put into it, that's how it felt to me.
Well, it's kind of ironic because that's how you came into the season in 2007, because I think it was the first quarter against the Steelers. Charlie Frye goes, just doesn't have a great first quarter, and you come in. Is it true that to start the season, coming into training camp, Romeo Crennel was like, I'm going to flip a coin, and whoever it lands on, that's who's going to start in the preseason?
That happened.
And it flipped on the side that Charlie Frye's was on. So Charlie was the starter in the preseason, I guess, going into
his office at the stadium before the game.
Were you like in the...
It was in the office.
Did he call you in to watch the...
Yes.
What?
It was like we were going to rotate. He was going to get like 10 plays, and then I was going to get 10 plays, and then he was going to get... It was mind-blowing to me. Just going into it, I was like, I personally felt that I had won the job going into the third preseason game. Had a good camp. I had played well enough.
Do you think a lot of that maybe has to do with like they drafted Charlie and you were a guy that came off of waiver? Like, I feel like for people it's like, well, I have to get this first round pick right. Not that he was a first round pick, but if it was Brady Quinn or somebody else, like, we have to get the pick right. Yeah, this guy's like good and stuff, but we have to get this pick right, so we have to like see if it works with him.
I think that there was just, again, multiple people pulling strings. So there's multiple people saying what's going on, and there's a group that wanted Charlie to play, and then when he went in, because there's no reason why he plays a quarter of football, and they're telling me, you're in, go play, you're in for the rest of the game.
In the first game.
And then they trade him on Monday.
But week 2, you never looked back, because that was the 51-45 game. My brother and I were both there. You threw 5 touchdown passes against the Bengals, and I don't think there was any decision-making there. It was your team going forward.
That was one of the craziest games, because we had 3 or 4 of those touchdowns were kind of like scheme plays. Like, we hope we get him in this coverage. We're going to move the tight end, and he's going to be in quarters, and this guy's going to do this, and next thing you know, he's gone. And I'm like throwing balls. I'm like wide open, like 3 guys, like wide. I mean, you cannot draw it up any better. And I'm like, holy smokes. And there was a bunch of garbage in between that got in there, but it was such a fun game and fun atmosphere, and something that one of them I'll never forget.
How did you feel, though, at the time, like after all that behind-the-scenes bullshit, and now you're like, you put up that performance, you're like, all right, well, if you don't start me after this, like.
I still didn't really feel great about the whole thing. I was like.
Throwing 5 touchdown passes?
The game felt great, but I'm just like I was like unsure, because I kind of had been drug around through this and that and back and forth.
That's crazy, though.
And exactly. And then we get into it, and it's like, all right, I guess we're going. And then even as the season progressed, and I had good games and bad games like everybody does, and we'd have a bad game, and then now I got to deal with the questions all the next week of, like, am I still playing? And it's like, I've thrown 25 touchdowns. Like, what are you talking about? Like, am I still playing? Like, so that was hard. And like I said earlier, like it kind of just wears on you, like, over time. Just let me go play.
It's like it's almost like looking for like a problem. It blows my mind. You had a great connection that year with Braylon Edwards, who obviously was a Pro Bowler himself as well. I think you threw 16 touchdown passes to him, which is like,
it's insane.
That is a lot of touchdown passes to one person. What made that connection so special?
He and I had a good vibe. Like, I just kind of knew where he was going to be, where he could get, balls that he could get to. I mean, I've gone back and watched him, like, with my son just over the years, and I'm like sitting there, I'm like, we practiced like back shoulder throws all the time, like in the red zone, and I don't think we probably caught 5 of those. Most of them were either broken plays or stutter 8s, where he's not 8s, so I'm hitting him in stride, like he's walking in the end zone. But just, we had a great connection, and I trusted that he would go get balls, and balls weren't going to get picked. And I mean, it's kind of easy when you got a guy that's 6'4" with a 40-inch vertical that's catching the ball. Like, that's cheating.
Yeah, he was a stud. He was pretty good. So I believe the last game of the season, week 17, I think he played the 49ers, and you guys won 20-7. So that makes you guys 10-6. Now all you got to do is have the Indianapolis Colts beat the Tennessee Titans, and you guys are in the playoffs. And of course, they pull Peyton Manning and start a guy named Jim Sorgi, and because they're resting the Colts for the playoffs, and the Titans win. Just
ruined it for us. Went to Hank Fraley's house, sat in his basement, watched the game, and then continued to drink.
as did most Browns fans probably as well.
I just sat there and went through every scenario of, like, one play. Like, literally that season came down to one play. Like, pick one. Like, the field goal gets blocked in Oakland, or we make it, and then we re-tee it, and gets blocked the next play. We lose that game. Here in Arizona, throw that ball to Winslow, he catches it in the end zone. They said he doesn't get forced out. I mean, there's
10, which was also questionable.
Exactly. There's 10 plays in that season, or maybe not 10, but there's 10 different scenarios where it could have been one play and we're in the freaking playoffs.
Well, when you think about it now too, they have 7 teams in each conference. So if that was the case, then obviously it'd just be a layup that you guys were in.
Right. One of the most frustrating, to be honest, because like by that time we had gone through the whole season, and now I've started to learn a bit of the history and the fact that this hasn't happened, and like we're going about it, and we go to, the most disappointing one, I've spoke on it numerous times, is going to Cincinnati week 16 or whatever it was, and I throw 4 picks, and like I think just not the pressure, but just the want, like I wanted that so bad, like going into that game, I'm like, we go down there. I'm like, we can beat this team. Like, they're a good team, but like, you're going down there and it's blowing 20, and like, it was not a great game to be throwing the ball all over the place, and we did, and I threw it to the wrong team a few times, but that one personally hurts worse than all the other plays, because we did so much good work to get ourselves that opportunity and just couldn't quite pull
Especially
it
with
off.
everything you just said behind the scenes, like to have that season is pretty crazy. I'd be remiss to not talk about Joe Thomas, because he came in that year, obviously, was the first pick out of the 2 in the first round. Did you have a good relationship with him? Especially, I mean, I suppose since he's your left tackle.
Yeah, Joe and I are great. I mean, we did a lot of cool stuff together. I mean, I hung with that line and those boys so much in that time that I was there. We would always go into the parking lot after the game and have a few beers after the game, and everybody kind of stand around, and like, it was just a good vibe, and that was ultimately, like, after that season, what made me want to come back. Like, before
I think there were a lot of questions that you would sign a contract somewhere else with more money.
Yeah, and I just kind of felt this unfinished piece to it, right? Like, I had built these relationships and these bonds with these guys, and we weren't supposed to be good, and we like come together, and all of a sudden we're good, right? And I felt like this unfinished piece that I needed to go back, and that felt right to me, and it didn't end up working out, but like, I still have those relationships. Joe and I chat, text here through every now and again. Hopefully going to make it out for his induction this summer.
So going into that 2008 season, I have an analogy for you from Family Guy, where Peter Griffin is presented the choice between a boat and a mystery box. And Lewis says, we'll take the boat. And Peter's like, well, a boat's a boat, but a mystery box could be anything. Why, it could even be a boat. And that's what I thought the Browns had with you. You were the boat, and Brady Quinn was this mystery box. It just so happened to be from Cleveland, or from Ohio. He had a famous draft photo of him in a Bernie Kosar jersey and a Browns outfit. And people are like, oh yeah, we had this guy. He's just a Pro Bowler. It's the first time it's happened, and the only time it's happened. But Brady Quinn, look at him. He was at Notre Dame, and he was a Browns fan growing up. Did you feel like it was? I mean, even though you came back and signed a 3-year contract back with the Browns, did you feel like you're like, I already proved myself? Why am I competing for the starting job week to week?
I did. I really wish there wouldn't have been such a push early on. Later in the season of that year, like, I get it. Like, things just didn't work out. We had guys getting hurt left and right, and I wasn't good. And like, okay, there's a time and a place. Let him play. Like, I understand it. Like, he was the first round pick, and I was always going to be the second fiddle kind of deal. Like, so it was difficult. But Brady and I had our good times and our bad times, and I think ultimately by the end, like, we kind of sat down and hashed it out, and just acted like 25 and 21-year-old or 22-year-old brothers.
So like, the relationship was like, was it tough because of the competition? But then are you guys cool now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't talked to him in a while, but no, like, the last year there we were together. Like, we had a dinner one night, and I was like, dude, this is like, we just gotta hash it all out, man. Like, let's just get it out. Like, I want what's best for you. Like, I would hope that you want what's best for me. And we ended up having a great time that year. We weren't a great team, but we had a great time together, and lots of memories.
That's good. So as we were telling you before, that 2008 season was one of my favorite memories as being a Browns fan, and probably my favorite memory of you, other than the 51-45 game against the Bengals, because that was Monday night against the Super Bowl champion New York Giants from the previous season, and we were just Monday night in Cleveland, like, that never happened. Like, night games, like, I wish we could have them more. The energy is just unbelievable there.
I tell my wife all the time, like, we weren't together at the time, and I'm like, I would have loved for you to, like, see it for a month. Like, when we were playing good, like, just to see it for a month, because people were so amazing to you. Like, it was shocking. Like, there was times, like, I didn't pay for dinner for like 2 or 3 weeks. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people didn't have to do that. Like, but it was cool. Like, we would go out to dinners. I always would go downtown, like, Friday nights with my family when they would come in, and it was just an energy that you can't really explain. Like, I had buddies from high school coming out to games, and they're like, we're coming back. Like, this is insane. It's a cool deal.
That is really cool. I have a quote from Phil Savage in 2008 that I was doing some research, and it kind of blew my mind that he actually said this. So somebody asked him about having 2 quarterbacks on the roster. Meanwhile, you're coming off a Pro Bowl season. And they ask if that is a problem. Phil Savage says, I don't know if it is or it isn't. As a rookie, Carson Palmer, I don't think he played a snap. Dante Culpepper didn't play a snap. Those are examples where it worked out for those players. I think Brady is anxious to play, and we would like to get him out there. Maybe there would be some opportunities that present themselves in the second half of the year for him to get out there.
There you go. So that's kind of what I was kind of saying. Is like, I had not heard that or remember.
He did say, like, we have played with how we have played with Derek at the helm. I'm not sure we really want to mess with that apple cart right now. But to have that thought, like, in the back of his head.
It was already there.
But that's the thing is, like, yeah, we have this guy, the boat right here, but what about this guy right here? That was just it was always there.
I think the success that we had was actually shocking. Like, that we were able to overcome so many different things, right? Like, I mean, that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, Romeo Crennel gets fired. Phil Savage gets let go. Eric Mangini comes in. And then the GM was George Coquino?
Literally talked to the guy like 2 times.
Coquinus,
I think.
I think he had so I guess Phil Savage was fired mostly because of the season, but then I guess he told a Bills fan to go f*** himself in an email. And it like got out there, and I think
fair.
They're like, yeah. Are you traded to the Arizona Cardinals, or did the Browns release you and then they picked you up?
They released me in February maybe. It didn't work out down there, and actually might be one of the most dysfunctional organizations that I was ever a part of. But
second or first?
It's a hard.
You can just say the Browns the most.
No,
it's okay.
Because the Browns never made me pay for water or Gatorade.
What?
They didn't never charge me for sweatsuits.
What?
Like lock the water coolers at like 4:00. The Gatorade coolers, like.
Did they just not have like employees or like?
It was like our lunch. We got charged. What? We get charged for lunch. Like lunch was like on a buffet line from some guy's truck from the parking lot. Like it was a weird operation and not my favorite situation.
Well, thank God it only lasted for one season.
Exactly.
Then. Yeah. So what was that process like for you going to Carolina? Because I think at that time that's when they drafted Cam Newton first overall. So.
Well, they're in training camp. I get down there, go through the whole thing, and they're, okay, yep, we're good. We're going to sign you, go through the thing, give you the physical, da-da-da. The Cardinals still had not cut me.
Like they didn't get the paperwork in?
They never put the paperwork in. It was.
They got to have employees to do that, though.
It was in. So I called Rod Graves, and I'm like, Rod, please fire me. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I've been trying to sign with another team, and you guys will not release me. And so then I'm at Wofford University. First off, I had lunch with Greg Olson. I have all these guys, and these guys are like, "What is he doing here? He's not even on our team." Like, and they kind of knew it. I didn't really realize it. I ended up sitting in the dorms for like a day and a half or something like that, while I was still technically under contract with the Cardinals, waiting for them to cut me so that the Panthers could sign me.
What? Oh my God! Maybe they take the cake as the most dysfunctional thing then. What?
That was a wild, like, 4 days.
That's crazy. So I got to ask, because none of us have experience. Maybe we will one day. I'm not really sure. What's it like playing in a Super Bowl? Or like being in a Super Bowl?
Everything that you've ever, like, really dreamt of.
I haven't dreamt of it because I just, like, you dream of things that are possible, but.
I mean, like, you've watched it, though. Like, you sit there and you're like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. Or that's cool. But, like, running out of the tunnel with arguably 53 of my favorite people. Like, that team was an incredible group of dudes. And then we get there and your heart rate is like 4 million. I don't think I took a breath for like the half of the first quarter. Like, it was so cool. And, you know, as we got into the game, I had to, you know, we're losing and my mind is blowing. I'm screaming at the refs. Like, there was no way they're going to let Peyton lose this game. And I was so pissed. I'm surprised they didn't kick me out of the game, to be honest with you. Like, I yelled at the side judge for a quarter and a half straight.
Remember what you said?
I cannot say it. I can't say it. I was like, you fucking cheat! You are cheating!
Yeah, but you were in Carolina for 7 seasons. So that's a long time to be somewhere. So you obviously enjoyed it. What was your relationship like with Cam Newton?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, he's like a brother to me. Like, we got going, and I think like probably the first 4 weeks were a little awkward. Cam goes out and he goes like 0 for 6 and like 3 picks in his first blitz drill of the first day that I can practice. And he just goes, DA, get in there. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm not throwing a ball. Like, I'm literally been standing here. Like, now he throws me in with the first unit, and like there was a little bit of like awkwardness, like almost like he was, thinking that I was gonna take his spot. And so like finally I'm like, grab him one day, I'm like, listen, dude, I'm here for you. Like, I'm here to support you. I'm here to help you. Like, I'm not playing over you. You're better than me. You're the first pick in the draft. Like, I'm here to support you. And then from that point forward, everything kind of just went and took off, and we had unbelievable times.
What's like the best story you can think of, or like that you can say you had with Cam Newton, just from the 7 seasons you were with him?
I have a ton of amazing ones that I would not like to share, but I love one that's like just a great memory for us. Is we go play the Cowboys on Thanksgiving in 16, blow them out, come back. We get home at like 11 o'clock or something like that. And he's like, come to my house. My auntie's has all the Thanksgiving stuff all ready. And so all of us go to his place, and we go walking in. They have this huge spread for us, and his girlfriend's in there, and she comes walking around the corner, and she's like 9 months pregnant. And he had not ever said a word to me about it. I mean, she wasn't 9 months pregnant, but I was like, what? He's like, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you about this.
In 2014, like you came in for him like twice, and not only did you come in for him from 2 games, you came in against the same team, the Bucks.
Oh yeah.
And you started both games, played pretty well. Like you won both games in a division that was like one of the worst ever. Like that was enough for them to actually win the NFC South with Cam Newton at that time. I just wanted to.
Damn. Congratulations. That'd feel pretty good.
Against the same team twice.
That was.
You're like, all right, I'll come in and save the day.
That was 2014. My funny deal. Like my daughter was born August 27th that year. Cam had broke his ribs versus the Patriots.
Oh my God.
And in the 3rd preseason game, and I had my daughter the night before the 4th preseason game, and I flew on a commercial flight the morning of the game to Pittsburgh to go play the last preseason game, play the game, end up like breaking a bone in my hand. I have no idea how. And then start week 1 versus Tampa, and Cam is irate because he's like, I'm fine.
Was it your throwing hand, or was it?
Yeah, like.
You just played with the broken bone?
They said it wasn't broken, but I'm pretty sure that looks like it was.
Yeah, it looks broken.
So I ended up playing that week, and we win, and it was awesome. Like, didn't think I'd ever be like an opening day starter again. Like, I thought I was kind of just going to be the backup forever. And we do that, and then at the end of the year, we play him at home, and we have to win because now I think this one is he wrecked his car, I believe it was. And then we win that game again, and we end up winning the division at like 7-8-1. I think is what it was, or something like that.
And then you make the playoffs with that, but of course the Browns are 10-6, and that's not good enough. That's such bullshit. That's such bullshit. Was it difficult for you to adjust to life after football, after all that structure from going from high school, college, and especially in the NFL to kind of be on your own and having a lot of time to golf and be with your 3 kids?
It has been hard because there's, and I always tell people, there's nothing that you can do that's ever going to replace that energy, that, the competition part. I can kind of replace it with golf. I can go gamble. I can, like that part of it, but just the energy that you get running out of that tunnel, in Cleveland and Arizona, I mean, it doesn't matter. Gone back and forth about maybe trying to get into coaching real football again, but I'm not sure I'm ready to leave my family and be away from my family that much.
Well, the Browns are always hiring, so yeah, they're always looking for new people, as you know.
They're doing good right now. They're getting there.
We'll see. I don't know. It's always I believe it when I believe it type of thing. But how do you want people to remember Derek Anderson?
1, that I could play, and 2, that I cared about my teammates. I think that's one of the biggest things that I preach to my teams is caring about your brothers, caring about your teammates, because I think ultimately like that's what gave me my power, my juice like on teams was that I had ability to bring guys together.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate it. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Thank you so much.